Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's me, God's comic Brad Stine. This is Brad Stine Has Issues, where comedy, conservatism, and Christianity collide in a cacophony of clarity. This is your lucky day. Tonight, we will be speaking with Darnell Phillips, a man who was in prison for 27 years for a crime he didn't commit. It sounds like, Wyatt, what should be happening to you every time you tell me that I'm going to be able to see everybody on my podcast board, and then they don't show up. Well, you should be sentenced for 27 years.
Yeah, for something I didn't do.
Well,
because guess what?
No.
It should be there. I'm at it. Why aren't you?
I don't know. I tell you what, this is Brad Stine Has Issues, folks. And if you're brand new to Brad Stine Has Issues, there's a lot of fun people we have on. And you're also going to see a lot of people that are going to be here that are going to be talking to you. They're going to be commenting to each other. So we are going to have the time of our life. You'll do it without me because I don't have Jack. I don't have Jack. And this is every dang week. You'd think if you paid a guy, he'd know how to make sure that you showed up.
Okay.
Yeah.
I am going to fix that. It will take me 10 seconds.
Okay.
And I will mock you for it.
Okay. Be my guest. Be my guest. But when you come over, and folks, what you're about to see is a disembodied hand. This is every week. We might as well just accept it for what it is. That's the where he showed me to go. Then I clipped over to live. There was nothing. So I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I'm the boomer. I don't know technology. I'm still, excited about sewing machines. I'm still excited about the zither. I'm still excited about, what was it on, by the way, Wyatt? Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't hear you. I didn't hear your pithy comment. Sounds to me like somebody's backpedaling.
I'm sorry. It was the video that had his face, name, and the podcast all on it. I know how that would be hard for you to see.
Neither one of those was I told to go on. I asked you a couple times, should I pop on this one or pop on that one?
Even if I didn't tell you that, if you saw it and it had all the information, why didn't you just try?
I tried.
No, you didn't.
Listen,
if you did, I wouldn't have had to do that.
Well, you know what? But here's something interesting about you. And for those of you who are brand new to Brad Stine Has Issues, that disembodied voice, that floating hand that did the tech support, that's the producer, the director, the sidekick, and my son who exuded from my loins. I created him from whole cloth. I procreated and I made a brand new boy, a real life boy. It's what he always wanted to be. And he's great at helping his dad. He's just terrible at doing it when I need it. He wants to make me look stupid first. So there's a shaming involved. I don't get that. I don't know. I'm the on and turn. See, I always thought he wanted to be off camera because he was so polite. He was so humble. No, he loves laughing and mocking as I face the carnage that he creates for me. And yet I have no way to defend myself to all you guys because you just assume that I'm the idiot. Wyatt?
You create the carnage yourself. Don't rope me into this.
Wyatt, I don't create the carnage.
You literally saw a sign that said, click this thing to get to the interview. And you're like, what do I click to get to the interview?
Yeah, there was no clicky. But I'll tell you this, guys. Speaking of odd times we live in, folks, today is July the 15th, 2024. Wyatt, is it 24?
It's been 24 for about 7 months now. Thanks for noticing.
Okay. Well, see, you could have told me that too, so I wouldn't look foolish. Again, Wyatt, you need to have the calendar up here ready for me to utilize that. But it has to be done on the sly. I don't want people to know I don't know what I'm doing and I'm losing my cognitive factors, which, come on, they're not going to let a guy run a business or being put in a high priority, position and lose his cognitive faculties. I mean, what do you think this is?
That was the joke, folks. You may laugh now.
Listen, I got to say something to you, Wyatt. we on this date of 2024.
What?
No, I conflated 15th of today with 2024. Anyways, so 2 days ago, Donald Trump was almost killed in front of our faces. He was shot and hit in the ear by I guess it was it a AR-15? I don't know what the guy used. Do you know why? You know what he used? What kind of gun he used? Why?
No.
You don't stay up on that stuff. You probably didn't know this happened.
I did, but
But who's paying attention? Who's counting? Hey, bullet's a bullet. Yeah, come on.
I mean, you're not wrong. A bullet is, in fact, a bullet. That's not inaccurate.
What is the difference between a round piece of lead shot through a blunderbuss, which is a bullet? Yeah. Or does it have to be shaped like a football with the grooving so that it can get its spiral? Is that a bullet? Because all it is a piece of dang lead or metal, steel, being thrown at high velocity. That's all it is, which means a slingshot used a bullet.
No, slingshots use projectiles.
That's what a bullet is.
Yes.
A high velocity.
All bullets are projectiles, but not all projectiles are bullets.
What projectile isn't a bullet?
It's a slug. Or a...
Watermelon? Cantaloupe?
No.
What was that show we used to watch where they made the trebuchets?
Pumpkin chunkin'. That was... I wish they brought that back.
Oh, that was a great one.
So good.
They made it the trebuchet. And what was the one that always won? There was one that just...
Air cannon.
Was it the air cannon?
Yeah. I for some reason, though, I can't forget the bicycle-powered one.
Right.
It's just like...
Did that work, or did it fail miserably?
Well, they had to separate them into different categories. Like the air cannons were all in one category.
That's right.
Then there was the self-propelled. Then there was the trebuchets and all that stuff.
Yeah. Well, cool. I mean, they're amazing. Think about all the ingenuity that humans have used to create things to kill other people, to crush the skulls of other humans. And that's where we put all of our effort. And then another guy said, you know what? Why don't I come up with a helmet that will deflect this projectile, or as I like to call it, a bullet, and it hits somebody and it deflects or whatever. And then a shield, and then it's like, well, wait, we need a sword. And then another guy says, well, what if we had a sword, but we could shoot the sword? We'll call it an arrow, and that way I can be farther enough away. So think of all the technology, the original sort of science, right?
Yeah,
scientific.
Think of all of that, and then think of the fact that it all accumulated in people watching people use that technology to shoot pumpkins at a field.
That was
For
cool.
sport.
It was fun.
Yeah. All of humanity's, like centuries of projectile innovation ultimately led to pumpkin shooting contest. That's what we decided.
Well, isn't that a kinder use of technology?
Well, have you ever gotten hit in the head with a pumpkin going 200 miles an hour?
I think so.
It's not fun.
It's happened to you?
No, but I can assume.
You're just surmising what it would feel like?
I surmise, yeah. I surmise.
Well, I don't know that I've pay you big money to sidekick if you're surmising. I want you to have
big money, so that's your first problem.
But you get paid something, Wyatt. Listen, it's better than Lowe's. He works at Lowe's.
Don't tell me about Lowe's.
He works at Lowe's, ladies and gentlemen.
I don't want to talk about Lowe's.
Listen, you've got if I'm not mistaken, you got a new guy that quit. No, you had the guy that had, like, his father was a surgeon.
Larry.
Yeah, how's Larry doing? Is he
okay? So I had so I was working with him a few days ago.
Yes.
There's no real way for me to describe this in a way that like gets you the full picture, but we have these devices called turtles. They're little green security devices. They make a really obnoxious beep if you so much as look at them funny.
Okay.
So we you deactivate them with a magnet. I called it a turtle killer.
Okay.
which basically became the name of it when I introduced that term to my friends at Lowe's. So, Saturday, I was helping out Larry, who accidentally set a turtle off. And so he said, "How do I fix this?" I took it. I took the magnet, and I told him. He stood right at it. He put the magnet on the turtle, and it deactivates. And then he said, "Cool, let me try." So I reactivate it, hand it to him. Dude proceeds to turn the whole thing upside down, take the magnet, go to the side with no magnet, and start banging them together.
What's wrong with Larry?
I could not tell you. It was.
He literally, you said, just go like that and it deactivates, or as we like to say, it's a turtle killer. And he said, well, let me try.
Like, dude could not understand how a magnet works when I showed him.
So you're saying that this man's father is a heart surgeon? Like
I think a spinal surgeon.
Oh, then now it makes sense. I thought it was something, drastic and sophisticated, when you said surgeon. But if it's just your spine.
Who needs them, right?
Who can't do that? Aisle 15, spinal surgeon, aisle 15.
Chiropractor kits, aisle 15.
Exactly. Well, anyways. Well, I was talking about projectiles, and I call them bullets. You call them projectiles. Not because you're right. It's just you like to be.
No, it's not because I'm right. It's because you're wrong.
Well, I'll tell you this. Either way, I think you could use it as a synonym for a projectile as a bullet. Anything that goes at a high pace and does destruction, I'd say you could call it a bullet.
Semi truck blaring down the highway, not a bullet.
Ever heard of a bullet train?
How did you get bullet train out of truck? Do I need to give you like a demonstration of how to magnet work again?
Well, only if
it seems to be a similar situation.
Only if it involves a turtle.
Here's my question: Why do we call them turtles if we use them like above ground? Shouldn't we call them tortoises?
I thought tortoises were the ones that go into the water.
No. Turtle. There's no such thing as a sea tortoise, now is there?
Oh, the turtle.
Yeah. Turtles go in the sea. Tortoises cannot swim.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Some people have figured this out the hard way.
Yeah, I guess when they made an aquarium.
No. I've seen a video of someone trying to be an activist, like sees a turtle, and it's like, "Be free!" Throws them into the lake, and then the top comment in the video is, "That was a tortoise. I think you just killed it."
Yes. Well, they meant well, and remember, if you're progressive, it's all about how you meant, not what you accomplished or lack thereof. Speaking of accomplishment and lack thereof, the probable Republican nominee for president was almost assassinated a couple of days ago. The man that is going to be running for Republican, Donald Trump, was shot and hit in the ear. It was weird watching it because it was almost like, Wyatt, it was almost like this was destined, like we just knew this was going to happen. We knew they were going to try to kill this guy. We knew it. And when it happened, it was almost surreal, like it was a movie, like this is how it's supposed to play out. Did you feel that? Like and he was supposed to survive it and it was like a movie, gets up with the blood in his face and he goes, keep going. It's like, you got to be kidding. It was like, how you couldn't have scripted it. It's like manifest destiny. Like this man is designed to if for no other reason, so God could have a big laugh at sticking him back in the presidency because he knows how many of the DC elite want to control the world and destroy the rest of America. And this guy said, I'm not playing. And they're like, how do we keep losing to this guy?
I don't know, man, but if you told me that was a Hollywood set and it was all just phoned in for like a documentary or something, I'd believe you.
Yeah.
I'd believe. Well, in fact, there's going to be a documentary about Trump, and that's definitely going to be a scene. I'm curious if they dramatize it, because I'd watch it and be like, no, that ain't what happened.
Well, it just seemed to.
Well, actually, have you ever seen a movie about a historical event you were there to witness, like firsthand?
Oh,
Yeah.
you think about that. Well, I've seen like sports replays of some famous event that I was there. Yeah.
Okay. And do they ever like embellish it a bit or like make it a bit more extra than what it really
I think
was?
over time it takes on the shape of weight or history or significance, maybe. But it depends on what it is, because if it is like the Hindenburg, it's a big deal. It's a big deal.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
It's like, yeah, we can't downplay this.
Well, no, you can. In fact, I think it went down pretty fast.
Yes, but nobody played. It was ouchy. And I got to tell you something. You know, I remember when didn't we watch something about the Hindenburg? Was it on Mythbusters?
Yeah, it was Mythbusters.
What
They
was
were
it about?
testing the myth that the Hindenburg went down most because of the thermite used in its coating.
Was it thermite?
Yeah, it was thermite. So
They coated it with thermite.
yeah, the ingredients for thermite. Yeah,
Okay.
and the myth is that is what caused it to go down.
As opposed to the hydrogen
Yeah, this was hydrogen.
gas.
Yeah, the
That's-
notoriously highly flammable gas. Yeah.
Wow. Well, I don't know. I don't know it doesn't sound like they were thinking it through. Okay, we're going to have this giant dirigible. It's going to be hundreds and hundreds of feet in the air. It's going to have lots of people. We're going to travel from one space to another up in the air where maybe a lightning strike could hit. We're going to need to fill it with some kind of lighter than air, some kind of gas. What do you guys think? Helium, maybe? Anybody else?
Wait, hold on. I got it, dude.
Yeah?
Hydrogen.
Hydrogen. Now, isn't that highly flammable?
Yes, but
Okay.
don't worry. We will make sure that the thing is safe because we're going to coat the outside with thermite.
So that
If
it's
it-
even more.
It's even more dangerous, which I think makes it safe.
So, in a way, it cancels itself out.
Yeah, it's like
It's almost
double
like the-
negatives. Like, think about it. If two negatives make a positive, two positives make a negative.
Yes.
just
And I'm
makes
positive
sense.
that was going to be a negative result.
Yep, and which means it's negative,
Wow.
but positive.
Nevertheless, Wyatt, I don't know. What do you think? Do you think this guy is going to survive to the election? I mean,
I don't know at this point. I honestly don't.
I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do with America. I
I-
don't know where we're going. I don't know where we're heading. There was people that were all over social media said, "Oh, I'm sorry he missed." I mean, people that never liked this guy are like wishing he was hit and killed. What have we become, Wyatt? I mean, seriously, you can't say I wanted you to. I mean, did anybody say I'm glad that Kennedy got shot because I'm a Republican, not a Democrat? No, I don't want you shooting our presidents. So, anyways, we've become an evil, dark, broken, dysfunctional, narcissistic, just sickening group of people. Their minds have become just mutilated with evil and darkness and demonic. It doesn't make any sense. These are normal people that go to job. You might work with them, Wyatt, at Lowe's. It might be Larry. And yet they act like evil Nazis. I want these people dead because I don't like them. It doesn't make sense, son. I don't even know where we're going with it. I don't know how it's all going to pan out, but it feels like God was there to intervene. It does. And I don't get on this podcast and say, "Oh yes, God has anointed Donald Trump to be the president." I don't say that. I don't know that is true. I mean, God's involved in the affairs of men, and he can lift up a king and tear one down, and he can use Pharaoh to stop the Israelites to escape and harden his heart so that they do this miraculous thing. He uses kings, he uses evil kings as well as good ones to get his missions accomplished. But it almost felt like he was destined to just like that's a perfect Trump scenario. They are going to try to kill him. He's going to get hit. He's going to get up and go golfing the next day, which he did, which makes him the either oblivious or the most hardcore president we have ever had, or former president.
Second hardest. You're forgetting Theodore Roosevelt.
He got shot.
He got shot. Mid-speech continued. He also hosted boxing matches in the White House.
And didn't he start national parks?
He did, yeah.
And the first one was?
Yellowstone?
I think it's Yosemite.
Yosemite, yeah. They both begin with the Y. I'm close enough.
Do you know that I was just at Yosemite like a month or two ago?
No, I didn't.
Finally visited it, saw Half Dome, everything. It was kind of in fog.
If you go there again, would that make it a whole dome?
Well, it depends on which side I'm viewing it from.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
I know. Now, listen, I was watching you today play video games with your nephews.
I wouldn't call it playing video games with them. It was more watching them fail at a video game while I played it.
Okay, well, that's true. And I think anybody that gets great accolades in crushing a 7 and a 4-year-old really...
Listen, they knew what they signed up for. It is not my responsibility.
So you don't have any sense of feeling sorry?
If they want to play games with me, they'd better get good at them.
So there is no grace if you're playing Wyatt Leroy Stine at a video game, prepare to have your ego handed to you
on a silver platter.
Well, here's what I wanted to ask you guys out there watching this. So Wyatt, I've seen him play Mario Kart. I've seen him play Link. I've seen him play Kirby, I guess. I mean, I don't know what you play. Pikmin's a big favorite. You are great at all of these games, but you were playing, what did you play? It was a side-scrolling thing?
New Super Mario Bros.
New Super Mario Bros. You chose for your character, is that what they're called? A fig, a character? What are they called?
I have no idea what fig has to do with this, but the character, yes.
Well, isn't a fig a figure?
I thought fig meant like Fig Newton.
No, a fig. My fig is like who I created my...
I have to tell you.
Yeah.
I don't think any sane person in the history of forever has ever called a character a fig. Except for you.
You don't?
I don't. The nephews don't. No one in the family does.
Nobody in the
neighborhood
gaming
does. Nobody in the country
community
does.
Nobody in the gaming community refers to...
No one! Who told you that? Who told you that?
Like,
Did they try to sell you a bridge?
Oh, like a Lego character.
Minifig. No.
No?
No.
There's no fig? Where did I hear fig?
There are no figs in video games.
Is there fig anywhere where they use fig?
No. It's not, only Newtons and minis. That's it. Those are the only figs that exist in this universe.
I don't know where I came up with fig. I thought it was a short, nickname for figure or figurine or fig.
I could probably be that, but you're not playing as a figurine. You're playing as a character.
Well, your character was the girl. You played Princess Peach.
No, I didn't. I played Toadette, who can turn into Princess Peach, and I did it because she is the most mobile character.
Yeah, and what does she do that none of the other characters can do?
Double jump.
Yeah, she can double jump and float because of her poofy skirt.
Yes, yeah, sure.
Wyatt. They always give, have you noticed this? Just like in Mario Golf, they give the girl fairy extra power. Why do they have to give extra powers to all the girl figs? Because they're incompetent.
Sort of like the guy who keeps calling them figs?
Maybe. I could have swore that was a real term.
Seriously,
Nobody uses it?
Who told you that? Did they try to sell you a bridge? And if so, did you buy it? Because you should not. If you did, go to the authorities. That's a scam.
They sold me a bridge, but it was a small version of the Brooklyn Bridge.
Oh, it was a minifig.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough, yeah.
But I will say this, I found it interesting, that they always give extra powers. It's just like watching the movies right now, where nowadays, because the wokies, all the women are now the superheroes, clobbering all the men. And the reason that they always make the women the superheroes with the superpowers and the super extreme skill sets is because in real life, women don't have that. Now, that is not an insult. That is not a put down. That there are women that are very competent and great at many things. This is not anti-women. I married one once, so still there, still hanging in there. I made one from whole cloth, your sister. So I'm not anti-women. There are wonderful female athletes out there. I think the only athletic event I can watch a woman do without falling asleep is gymnastics. They do amazing gymnastics. But I can't watch them play tennis. It is so boring. I don't watch tennis anyways. I cannot watch them play basketball. So boring. I cannot watch them play softball, even though they're pretty good at that. And so now gymnastics, they can really do some amazing things, but everything else, and this is not against women. If there were no men, or if I was the only man that existed on earth and I watched female athletes of every stripe doing their things, I'd be, I'm amazed because they're better than me. They're better than me. I'm an older man. They can run faster. They can jump higher. I'm sure they're better at every sport that they are experts at, if they're professionals, than me. Guaranteed. Not saying for a second. But take a competent male athlete in whatever genre, they will destroy you. So what? It's just the way it is. Men are bigger, stronger, denser body mass, faster. It just is true. Fast twitch muscles. Come on. Obviously. We all know it, or there'd never been a women's division of anything if they could compete. But you chose one, and I found it fascinating because you didn't feel less of a man to play a woman. You didn't feel humiliated. You didn't feel like it was downside.
No.
Didn't you feel nothing?
No.
You're happy to have a big skirted princess and floating sweetly, and you
here's
thought,
the thing.
yeah,
Psychologically, men don't really care about that stuff. They've done studies on this. When a man plays a character, they sort of play as the character. If I've got my G.I. Joe guy, I'm G.I. Joe. I'm going to do all that cool stuff. When girls do it, they basically try to fit the character within their own sort of thing.
their own sort of thing.
So like, if a girl has a G.I. Joe, he's doing Tea Party.
Okay.
That's not what G.I. Joe does, but that's what the girl wants him to do.
Okay.
And it's a genuine psychological thing.
Okay.
Yeah. I think Lego did the study, actually.
Was it about women figs? Or female figs, maybe? Fem figs?
No, minifigs. Minifigs, yeah.
So you're saying that the guys just disassociate with the gender?
Yeah, I don't care who the character is. I care about what they can do, who they are.
I see.
That's all I care about.
Okay. So what has been your favorite character of any game of all time?
Oh, shoot. Don't give me this question.
No, I have to.
I know you have to, but you don't have to. Let's see. My
You're the sidekick. I mean, unless you want to start asking the questions.
I will say, Link from Twilight Princess is one of the best iterations of him. The first, one of the first moves you learn is how to stab someone through the heart. I'm okay for that.
With a bullet?
No, well, with a
projectile.
It's like an arrow, but you hold it in your hand. And it's like metal a lot. I'm not sure what you'd call that.
Sword, dagger.
Sword, yes. Sword, that's okay. I have a name, but I think we can do better than that.
Well, listen, I just was curious if you felt it was odd to have to pick a character that's a woman if you're trying to do a hard...
Why should I be? I only care about what the character can do.
Yeah.
And nothing else is relevant. And besides, even if it was, who cares? I want to play the game how I want to play it, you know?
Well, I'm not saying it's wrong, Wyatt. I was asking if you stop to think about, I'm playing the girl. I wondered if you ever thought if that was odd or made you feel
Why would I think that's odd?
Because you're a guy. Maybe you'd like to be a guy.
Okay.
That's the big retort?
Yeah. Yeah. What else do you want me to say? Okay. You think that way, I think another way.
Well, I got to tell you something, Wyatt. There are things about women that are different, especially in the interaction with a man. As a matter of fact, I got a clip, if I'm not mistaken, that just recently came out that had me discussing this very thing. Now, folks, you got to get used to these clips because I have a feeling, I have this idea of wanting to bring out as part of a feature of issues every night, Monday night, a clip that will be talking about issues in America, in the West, that need to be dealt with. So I hope they're humorous, but they're going to have an edge to them from a Judeo-Christian point of view, a conservative point of view. And I hope it's educating. I hope it gets in the atmosphere. I hope people like it. This was my attempt to start doing that with the original Brad Stine Has Issues, where I was just doing rants. I think it's kind of me trying to hybridize, bring that back in, but make it even more poignant, a little bit shorter than the 10-minute rants they were. Anyways, this was just a taste of what I would like to try to even confine even tighter, even more interesting, I hope even more informative and even funnier. Tell me what you think about this, and think if you would like more things like this in an even more robust level. Wyatt, hit it. Women say they want to be respected for their minds. Now, there are other things to admire about women than just their minds, which can be a metaphor for their aspirations and talents and dreams, which is certainly something that men should respect. But if you want to be respected for your mind, then today I'd like to engage it in something that women often are very reluctant to admit. The way you dress can often direct men's nature toward your figure and sexuality, and away from your mind. So my question for women today is, do you believe you have any responsibility to how men see you? What I'm asking you is simple. Do you believe if you willfully choose to wear revealing clothes that are designed to emphasize your curvature, like yoga pants or tops that reveal your breasts and define your nether region so as to entice men to potentially sexually desire you, then are you not doing the exact opposite of what you proclaim you want? If you aren't able to use your mind to realize that emphasizing your body makes it impossible to focus on your mind, then your mind is severely lacking in justifying its wishes and its value. You have to choose to be willing to commit to abandoning overtly sexual clothing and let the chips fall where they may. Now, here's the truth. A woman can wear revealing clothes, skin-tight leggings, and barely their top, and when men are drawn to them sexually, by which the men have no option because we're literally born that way, then it's still true. The men are still responsible for their actions. Yet, what kind of an unsympathetic person would you have to be to have an open bar in an AA meeting? Yeah, I guess you could, but the narcissism and foolishness of saying, hey, I want a drink. Sorry you struggle, but that's not my problem. It's true, but so selfish and insensitive as to deny reason. But it's even more pronounced when we see women that continue to believe that they are not responsible for any decision they make in regards to how it affects men. Just drinking from my Mighty 10,000 mug that you can have if you join the Mighty 10,000. Just go to bradstine.com and join the Militia of the Mind. This allows me to get your email, and it allows me to send you newsletters about what I'm up to. But if you join the Mighty 10,000, you get your own number. You are part of the 10,000 people that said, I am in fact a God follower, and I will in fact give my life to Jesus, who's an actual real guy that actually died and came back from life. And it just happens to be the only truth that ever was proven to be God on earth. Sorry, don't know what else to tell you other than there's nobody like him. Jump in, join the club. Listen, I got to say hi to folks because we're running out of time. Number one, guess who was number one today? Saint
Nicholas.
No, he wasn't.
What?
It was actually Ashley Hayes. Hayes, Haaaas. Yes. Hi, Brad. Hi, White, and all happy Monday. Ashley, is she a newcomer? Is this her first time?
I don't know, maybe.
Okay.
Name sounds familiar, though.
Well, I don't know. Write it down, and then maybe if she shows up next week, we can remember.
Yeah.
Jim Bronaugh. Hey, Brad and Wyatt. I'm just some guy. Of course, we all don't know him as Saint Nick. He came in third this time. Hello, Brad and Wyatt. Paula Rauchi, who used to have 4 names, and she got rid of them, sold them, and gave them to some homeless guy under a bridge. Wyatt, you got to give her credit for being philanthropic.
Yeah. Or, maybe the economy's just that bad.
It could be. Maybe she had to sell it off so she could eat. Greetings from Floral City. Cabo, that's Karen Boyd, our favorite lady from South Carolina. Hey, all, with some pink, purple hearts or something to other. Dusty, I guess. Hello, friends. That's Dusty. Aaron Oakes, you know what that means without looking.
Highlight of his week?
Why? It's a highlight of mine as well, but I love it when Aaron jumps in. Yeah, he's here. Let's see. Who else is out there? Hey, T.W. Smith. Greetings, Brad, Loinboy, et al. Had to work last Monday night, had to watch and replay, and it looked like Brad had to battle the YouTubes to get replay to stay uploaded. So, yeah, T.W., if you came last week and saw Victoria Jackson, great interview, incredibly interesting woman, good friend, sweet thing. But we showed a clip. I hate this. We showed a clip from her on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson because I wanted you all to see it and go with her. And, of course, they tagged it. Yeah, it's copywritten. And so in order to allow YouTube to not make it disappear, I think we had to pull the clip off. Is that what we did, Wyatt? Why would you know?
I didn't do the edits, but I believe that's what we talked about doing.
All right. Joyful Notes, 83. Hi, Brad White, and everyone from Cindy Haas. Cindy Haas sounds similar to the Ashley Haas, but it's not. So do you think Ashley changed her name to Cindy so she could get another shot at seeing if we remember her? Like an incognito. She's like, oh, no, it's not Ashley, it's Cindy. Cindy Haas. Maybe?
I don't know. Maybe. These names on the YouTube, I'm still getting used to them.
Look, Ashley showed up again. Real boy, no strings. Nope, just drums. Oh, and then Nick said, little drummer loin. Oh, Wyatt, they're just taking you to Chinatown. Let me think here. Okay, so Carrie Tudor said, hey, all just got home from Bible study. Did I miss anything? Yeah, you missed me doing my favorite rant about bullets, projectiles, and playing figs of women when you're a man. Let me think. Let's see. Carrie Tudor. Only thing you missed was St. Nick drinking all the whiskey. That's T.W. Smith. Always concerned about the sobriety of St. Nick, who we know as I'm just some guy. Actually, he's eating salted caramel ice cream. Let's see. Okay. Why won't Walmart call wraps of TV spurters. That's what Carrie said. Walmart call wraps of TV spurters. Listen, if you don't understand why, maybe this is too much for you, and you just need to move on. Let's see. Rima, you haven't seen the JFK footage. I was just at Dealey Plaza about a month ago shooting a movie that I'll tell you about as soon as it comes out, and I will have an actor who I'm going to interview that's in the movie that you will know, and the guy that produces it who you'll really know, who's going to be on the podcast here soon. But I was in Dallas. I was at Dealey Plaza. Went down and filmed myself. I think I did a Daily Brad or something. I don't remember what I did. Showing exactly where the man got shot and killed, and I was there. We do know that Trump picked J.D. Vance to be his vice president. Yes, that's true. Teresa Johnson gives us a couple hearts and a hi. Let's see. Stan Stinson, greetings. All Stan, glad you're back. The Stan Stinson or the Stusta. I love that. Makes me feel good. Let's see. Aaron Oak said, how about music figures? Bob Marley, Freddie Mercury. Rima says, thank you for unity, spreading love. Jesus is coming. Yes, sir. Let me think if there's anybody, of course, we all know that with everything the talking heads on TV say about Trump, it was only a matter of time before some loony tried it. Of course, Yellowstone's right here in Wyoming. Aaron Oaks is from Wyoming, Wyatt. No wonder this is the highlight of his day or Mondays. Oh, Wyatt, how good are you at video games?
I'd say I'm pretty good.
Kind of dominate for the most part everybody you get into touch with?
For the most
Do
part.
people usually have the courage to call you out and challenge you to a game?
Not really.
You know who Saint Nick is, right?
I'm a little familiar with the term.
Yeah, he's a nice guy, regular guy. Doesn't humble brag. He's got his own business. He's loaded. He's rich. He's looking for a woman. And any girls want to hook up with Nick and let him know who you are and where you live, and that you would love to get to know him, and perhaps they could get married. We'd go. Would you go to his marriage?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyways, here's what he said. Wyatt, me and you, Oregon Trail on Apple II. You ever played Oregon Trail?
No, but I know about it.
Wyatt,
Okay.
have you ever played Oregon Trail?
No.
Wyatt.
The computer game? No.
Oh.
Apple II was a computer, not a. I played the board game.
Well, isn't it the same?
Yes and no.
They just use figs instead of. I had to get
You're
another.
really milking this fig juice.
Milking a fig, and that's hard to do.
Listen, fig milk, not as tasty as it sounds.
Dusty says, seems like White's a Nintendo guy. Would that be true?
A little bit.
Okay. No ego, just play and learn. Can't handle fighting games. No 3D or that's Carrie Tudor. And then also Mike Tyson Punch Out on Nintendo is new. Aaron Oak said my M10K hat sticker fell off. Well, you can glue it back on, I think. Right? Where? Let's see. Billie Jean King, Joyful Note said, yeah, she was a great tennis player. She couldn't have beaten the 100th ranked male tennis player. That's true. The best female tennis player of all time is sister. Who is it? Who I'm talking about? Why?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Serena Williams?
Serena Williams? I don't believe you got a reference. Holy criminy. Yeah, Serena Williams. Anyways, but she was told when John, Lord have mercy.
Great job. You're doing a great job.
He was a
now.
tennis guy. Anyways, he said that she's the
guy.
greatest. He said that Serena is the greatest female tennis player of all time. He said, but if she played a man, she would be ranked like 700. And when they talked to her about, they were all angry, like, come on, she's the greatest female player. Why would you joke and make fun of her? And she said, I would be just, Serena said, if I played the best man, I couldn't even return the serve. Take that, ladies. All right. Anyways, Cabo said that Brad loves to aggravate Wyatt. That's true. Yes, sir. Aaron's a proud member of the militia of the mind, and I'm proud of you for that. Hey, Bushquacker showed up. What was with the lengthy disclaimer this week? Did we have a lengthy disclaimer, Wyatt? Bushquacker.
Yeah.
What was the problem?
The guest for tonight.
Okay, now you know that Darnell Phillips is the guy that was in prison.
Yes.
So what was the problem?
What he was in prison for? Allegedly.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah. I get you. Okay, well, anyways, it was just, here's the thing, guys. This is on Salem, so now some poor soccer mom is riding down the road and on her TV, on her radio show, she downloads the show, audio only. She's got her 4-year-old in the back car seat, and suddenly mature subject matter comes on. So we're just trying to forewarn, not you guys. Lord knows you guys can handle it, but anyways. Guess who's late? Gianna Sarsmore, but she's here and she's sorry. And okay, just took a look. Guess just heads up about what's going to be discussed if you're easily offended type. Yeah. So that's what it was. Bushquacker. It's just trying to help anybody listening that doesn't know what this program is, or they're thinking it's on Christian radio, so it's going to be safe, and they have kids, and they're talking about issues that have to do with why a man might be in prison, if you can get my drift. Okay, so anyways, boy, I'm getting it permanently attached. Love my hat, wearing it out probably because I wear it almost every hour of the day everywhere. Oh, I appreciate that, Aaron. And anyways, so that's what this was. It's a I don't know if you're joking or what, but as I said, when I do my show and I do this, we're real, we're authentic. We talk about real people. I've had atheists on, I've had PhDs on, I've had sports athletes on. We talk, we're real, we're to the point. But I try to be sensitive to fact that people might be listening, and if it's going to be R rated, I just want them to know so they can decide if they want to watch that or not. So that's all. We were just being kind of protective of the Salem Radio Network, soccer moms listening in. So, anyways, that's all it means. It's full interview, nothing censored. It's just letting people know so they can go in with their eyes wide open. Wyatt, we need to let people know that this is an important podcast. The Mighty 10,000 is a discipleship idea of people joining and saying, I want to be a Christian who is fully all in. You will have access to special guest answers that only you will see. Wyatt, how do they get a hold of that? I've had somebody say they couldn't find those. Where are these extra answers?
Those on the website when you log in.
So where you just log in and you go to your account or whatever?
Yeah, you just go to your account.
And where are they composited?
I'd have. It's kind of hard to tell you without showing you directly, but
all right. Well, anyway.
There should be a tab of all the stuff, the things you get.
Okay. Well, anyways, I want you guys to know that we are building the brand. I am going to have some of these new. And did anybody comment about the little rant we just showed, Wyatt? Anybody like those things? Do they think those are helpful? Because I'm
not seeing anything.
Nobody,
yet.
Nothing. Why would they? Why? All I asked was, guys, what do you think? And they're so comfortable now, son, with our little podcast that why should they participate anymore? They know they're stars. They are. People come on and watch you guys talk now, for crying out loud. Well, anyways, here's the key. The man that I'm about to show you this interview with, it's a hard story because have you ever been accused of something you didn't do and the police got involved? Or you're accused of a crime you didn't commit? Well, I have been. And it certainly didn't occur and didn't have the ramifications that this poor man did. But his name is Darnell Phillips. He is a pastor. He's seeking God. He's a man of God. I even tried to reach out to see if he wanted to come on, and while his interview was on, if he wanted to say hi, just like Victoria did last week, and some other folks have. But he was sentenced to prison for a crime that he didn't do, and he was let out. But 27 years later. I mean, how do you can't make up for that. You can't give me my life back. You can't do it. But I just thought that he would make a really interesting, because I want to know your spirit. What kind of a spirit of a man can do that and live with that and not be bitter and angry and hateful? As like I said with Trump, as this was recorded, 2 days ago was almost assassinated. We really need to learn how to love, forgive, give mercy, care about people we don't agree with. We really need to learn how to realize you're not going to always get your way, and maybe you need to show some kind of kindness and dignity to people that you disagree with. But it's not easy to do. And for someone to have suffered like this, how did you come out the other side being okay, being at peace? What did you learn in these terrible situations that you had to do? Because there was no way out. You're sitting there going, I can't believe I'm here. And yet you saw it out, and God released you, and what you have to teach us, what we could all learn from that. Well, it's important. So folks, if you really, have somebody that, or even, people that have gone through some unfair situations, this might be helpful to them, because, wow, can you imagine this happening to you? Well, he's one of us. He's a Christ follower. And it's a fascinating story. I think you guys are going to enjoy it, and I hope you get some inspiration from it. And after that, next week, Cindy Bond will be with us, a producer of I Can Only Imagine, the movie. She's a producer of some of the top faith-based films in ever in history, and she will be our guest next week. But for right now, folks, sit back and just listen to this harrowing adventure and be amazed at the character of Darnell Phillips. He just obtained his doctorate in theology, which is saying a lot more than I have ever done. And he's starting his lifelong mission of ministry in Norfolk, Virginia. Sounds fairly innocuous, right? Oh, wait till you hear his story. Please welcome Pastor Darnell Phillips. How do you do, my brother?
I am doing well, my brother. I'm
Okay.
doing well.
Well, I will say this based on the story I've heard of yours, I am shocked those words could ever come out of your mouth. And and you know what? We've just met. I don't know you. I do know this. The God of the Torah, the monotheistic God that is the first time in human history revealed himself as the only true God. There is no polytheism. There are no multi gods, though they were always worshipped and continue to be. There's one. Now, that wasn't just some arbitrary philosophical or theological beginning to a particular religious belief that became Judaism. But it was much, much more than that, because for the first time in human history, if we accepted the premise that there was only one God, that means he created everything, which means by just practical in deductive reasoning, all human beings are related. We are all in this. We have the same dad.
Yes.
That's the way we look different. So what? Everything looks different. Flowers are different. Trees are different. Whatever. In the United States, which is in the last number of years so grappled with race and history and difficulties and so forth, slavery, of course, it is more essential, I think, than ever for true believers of Christ to say, I'm sorry, I have to identify as a child of the living God, and that's how I see people. I have no option, even if I've been brutally, unjustly convicted of a crime and or something has happened to me that was unfair. And that is kind of the preface into your story. I want you to take as much time as you want to tell your story. You can start at the beginning, your life, if you want to, or you can start right at the juicy parts. But I'm very grateful you're here and can't wait for people to hear what you have gone through and why we're talking today. So take it from here, my brother.
Well, of course, I've always lived my life in the Virginia Beach area. I came out of a very, very beautiful, warm home. But the beautiful, warm home that I came out of at the age of 18, that pretty much all changed, that the whole landscape. I was just going about just pursuing, because in the area I live in, Virginia Beach, we had a lot of, we can say a lot of heroes we could look up to. We had a lot of athletic stars like J.R. Reed, DJs Dozier, football players. We had a lot of musicians that came out of this area. And so for us, a lot of times, since it's a multicultural area, the streets wasn't something that you would label within Virginia Beach. So me, I had a lot of businessmen I could role model after. But it just so happens one day in August, I was in the process of going about trying to pursue my music career. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a producer and I wanted to be a rapper. That was very common back then. Not like the rap these days. It was very more a socially conscious rap because of the injustice with police officers and everything else. And so I was trying to do it get a demo for the rap group Public Enemy. That's what I wanted to do. We want to present a demo to them. But as my friend and I, we were walking, just a beautiful sunny day, beautiful day. We were accosted by police officers telling us that a young lady had been raped. And so that kind of threw us aback because we're like, okay, wow, what's going on? Now, the thing is, I had not yet been born again, but God was wooing me in through this young man. He was a pastor's son. He was from New York City. And so the police officers asked us, did we see anything? I told them, no, we didn't see anything at all. But they said, well, a person had just walked by us. They walked by us, and my friend at the time, we smoked cigars. We were young guys. So as we went around the corner, it just so happened the police said, look, stay here. I have to go over here because we saw somebody go to the apartments. We didn't know whether or not that person had committed a crime or anything. We just know we saw someone. When the police officers came back, they questioned us. They questioned us for hours. My friend was in the police car, so I thought it was him that they were looking at, but he didn't fit the description. I didn't believe I fit the subscription either because in this description, the person had on all white. Okay, I had on all brown and I had on all black. So the police officers that evening, they took us to my friend Michael's house because Michael was 16. I had just turned 18, took pictures of us. And when they took the pictures, we didn't think anything of it. Our conscience is just clear. You know, just going through it, took the pictures. Police officer asked me to take a picture with the hat on. And so I did it in the house. We didn't understand that this was about to take us on a ride. God had already been putting in my heart to go to church. That Friday, this was on a Wednesday when we got questioned. That Friday, while out on the town with a few of our friends coming in from college, police officers came to our car, you know, just stormed us from all different areas. They asked, was Darnell Phillips in there? I lift my hands. I didn't know what it was for. Put me in the back of the police car, took me down to the station. Before I knew it, hours had passed, police officers had passed, but before that morning, maybe about before 6 o'clock in the morning, they had told me that this police officer, right, after being questioned, I had confessed, I had told him a crime. And the thing is, I hadn't told this man anything. But it was just it was like a weird zone I was in. So I went to court that Monday. They told me that I was facing a rape charge for this young lady, to which I did not know, had never seen. And they told me I was facing 3 lives and 30 years. I stayed in that jail for 5 months. I didn't think that I would get convicted or anything because I had probably about 11 witnesses to know where I was. No, I didn't do anything. No, I didn't have any of the clothes. They said I had a hat like that, but it was a very popular hat. 5 months I stayed in jail. At that time, it was a very dark period for me because at that time I did not know Christ yet. It just so happened I went to one of the Bible studies, and at that time, I just surrendered my life at that time as a young man, 18 years old. Got out on bond after going through severe depression, enemy trying to tempt me to commit suicide because telling me I had no life and everything. And I got out after those 5 months. I was free for maybe like 9 months. During that time, I, started, going to church and everything and got into my own business. But I didn't know before June 1991, I stood before a judge, and the judge said, Darnell Phillips, we sentence you to 100 years in the Virginia Department of Corrections. Right then, while the judge was announcing that sentence, you would think that your life is over, but that's when God really kicked in on me. I heard a voice that blocked out the judge's voice. And that voice said, Darnell, don't worry, you'll be okay. And the peace of God came on me so strong, Brad. They took me to the back of the courtroom, and then it's like a little side door to which, after you've been sentenced, they lock you up to take you to jail because whatever sentence you were sentenced to, that means that's the remainder of the time you're going to be there. So when they took me back there, the door was left open. The gate was left open. The back door was open. The sun was shining through. I had just been announced that you're going to spend the rest of your life in prison for a crime you didn't do. But the peace of God, I could not push that voice out of my head. So what I did was, even though that back door was open, and even though I do not know why that gate was open, but it was symbolic to me. I said that, you know what? I'm going to be okay. God just said, I'm going to be okay. So what I did was I reached out there, shut the door. Then I closed the gate and I said, Father, I don't know how long I'm going to be in this situation. I don't know. But it had to be God, because after being sentenced to 100 years, where did this come from a 19-year-old? I said, I'm going to serve you because I didn't do anything. So evidently you have a bigger purpose. So they took me to the jail. And from then they took me on to the prison, fresh 100-year sentence. But by the time I left out, because they wanted to make the charge stick, they gave me another false charge and I received 7 years. So with 107 years, I was on a journey of a lifetime. I went into the Department of Corrections. And before I even got on the compound, God had already been talking to me about ministry. By that time, I had been born again. And I said, you know what? This is going to be a school for me. And so before I got on the compound, God had already identified me to men that there was a minister being incarcerated. That was funny to me because I hardly knew the scriptures. But from that moment on, God just carried me, it's like on a mission field, to share my faith and to just boldly administer the word of God. The little bit I knew, I'm like, I was just on fire. 107 years on my head, everything broadcasted on the news, but I was on fire with that word of God. And nothing could change my mind that God was real. And there would be moments that would come up that would try to test it, try to test my mettle as an individual, my character. But I can honestly say, hey, look, God was doing a work in me, and that work superseded and eclipsed anything that was happening on the outside with me.
Obviously, that's just overwhelming story because nobody wants to just be accused of doing something they did, even if it was you cut in line, you stole a piece of gum. Nobody wants to be accused of something they didn't do. We have this intrinsic sense of justice. I think God gives all humans, like there's a right and a wrong way to do things. And there's this sense that there's supposed to be a moral code that is adhered to. And part of that is and it's in the 10 Commandments. Thou shalt not bear false witness against your neighbor. That's literally one of the 10 rules for humanity God gave us. You don't get to lie about people's lives. That's what you endured. And so I want to go into this, obviously, from the spiritual realm, because so many people go through difficulties in their life, and becoming a Christian, if anybody is serious about their faith, have learned that is very often a time when the hard parts really start. I don't know where we came up with this idea that, oh, I'm a believer now, it's all roses. Oftentimes it's the opposite. Oftentimes you're going, well, wait a minute, I didn't sign up for this. I thought you were God and you were going to free me from any injustice, and you were going to heal me from any sickness, and you were going to enrich me from any loss. And I think what God tells us is, oh, I am going to do all those things, but it's not going to look like you think it's supposed to look.
Definitely.
And that's just fascinating to me. So let's break down a little bit, if you don't mind, just the experience, because first off, most people hopefully will not have gone through what you did. And so let's just help them understand what it really feels like emotionally, psychologically, to be put in prison. I mean, I'm assuming you had obviously had an attorney. I don't know if it was court appointed guy or if you had paid for a guy, but during the process, I guess they would have had to have manufactured evidence against you. I mean, they can't just say, we've decided it's this guy. They must have thought they had some evidence. And how did your attorney approach that? Did he ever give you hope, like, hey, you're going to be fine? Or did he say, boy, this might be a challenge?
I had, like I said, my parents, they had actually saved up money, not for an attorney, but before their retirement, obviously. And so they had put all that money up, and we purchased actually 2 attorneys. Those 2 attorneys, they had informed me that they really didn't know me, even though the case at the beginning was weak. Now, because it's a big twist to this thing at the end, because God revealed what the truth was. But I went through the process with them, and they had informed me that, it doesn't really look good. I had a lot of witnesses, but they were saying, because I was a young man, I had, kind of dropped out of school, trying to pursue my dreams. I wasn't in the street, but they were like, well, Darnell, it just fits kind of bad profile. You got a good background. That's one thing. You don't have a juvenile record. So me, I didn't understand as a young man then, right? I often questioned that. I just didn't understand right then why was I targeted. I really didn't, because the only thing I desired was to go about fulfilling my days. I knew I wasn't going to always, like I say, be a young man, not go off and pursue his education. I was in the midst of trying to create a life that I knew for myself. And so, me personally, when I guess you could say the attorneys were telling me that, there's a possibility that you may not get out of here, and that if you just, plead guilty, then there's a possibility you have some light. That was presented to me while I was awaiting, going to trial. I got really mad at that because they were telling me pretty much to throw my life away. Mm. I knew I was innocent. I kept telling them I was innocent, but I could not articulate as well as them. I could think it because I knew whatever story it was, it had to be a lie. Because at the time where the commission of the crime was going on or whatever, I was in a house with a lot of people. I just couldn't put the pieces together.
Yeah.
I didn't understand why an officer was lying on me. I didn't understand that. I didn't understand that they wanted to close the case, and I just couldn't see it from their perspective. I saw it from an 18-year-old child's perspective, a budding adult perspective. How I felt was, I felt as if, let me be honest with you. I felt as if I was being tossed away like garbage. I knew the potential that I possessed as a young man. I knew it. I knew it. Even though I had left the school, I was trying to pursue something that I thought I could accomplish. I really thought I was on the precipice of accomplishing something great in the music area. They couldn't see it like that. So I'll be honest with you, in a lot of senses, I was discouraged because I grew up around police officers. My uncle was in law enforcement, my dad's brother. But even though he was in law enforcement and I had good relationships with officers in the area, I just couldn't see why these things were being loaded on me. Because it's so crazy knowing that my mom had a daycare center, right? She had a daycare. She ran it out of her house in the 80s. But I'm being accused of raping somebody who's younger than me. That was an insane feeling.
And did that
really
person
hard
did the person that got raped accuse you? I mean, did they say, no, it's him, this is the guy? Is that what happened? Or
no, they didn't at first until an officer told them. See, the thing is, that's what I found out later on down the line when I was trying to put pieces together. When the time of this situation is about to close up and I was about to be released, I found out that the very officer who lied and said I confessed to them, who said that there was no way that he could have known anything about the story except for me telling him. The victim later came out and said, this is the same officer who came to my house the night of the crime. And so the officer concocted a story that I told him that to shut the case. Later on, we would find out that this particular officer was the same officer that was known to get confessions out of some of the most high-profile cases. Why ever he did it, I do not know. Passed away like a year ago or something, but I just know I found out that there was a pattern to this man. And I didn't understand why I fell up under the web of his deceit. I just didn't know that.
Right. Okay, so you're in this situation. You can't escape. You can't just, there's no do-overs. There's no, hey, can we just kind of start over? And, once you're in and have been indicted, you have to see it through, and
Yes.
hopefully get released. But nevertheless, there's a process you have to go through. And so you went into this, I guess there was a jury trial and they presented their evidence and whatever. And I guess that sounds like it was basically this officer testifying, here's what he told me, and here's what he said. And you're saying, I didn't say that. And so it's your word against his. And they're trying to say, well, he's a policeman and he's got this wonderful record of defending the community and he's spotless in 25 years on the force. And here's this young kid who's trying to be a rap musician. He's not even in school. So it's not unusual to think he might be a criminal or on the way to that. And then I guess they brought the witness up and said, and yep, he's the guy. And you're like sitting there going, what, what do you think about as a human being who literally are looking at, they're making this up and I can't prove they're lying. There's nothing I can do, but this is completely, I'm being railroaded and I'm realizing I can't, I can't fix this. This is, for whatever reason, they have chosen to, I am the sacrificial lamb on this case, and that's that. What goes through a person's mind when they realize that this is complete lies and everything's against me? Now, you said you weren't even really a believer yet, so it's not like you could even go to the scripture or pray and kind of try to find some kind of peace, some kind of hope. Maybe you did anyways. I mean, no atheists and foxholes. Maybe you just kind of threw something out there because you're like, I'm desperate. But what is going through your mind when you're starting to think, holy smoke, this, I don't think I'm going to get out of this.
Me, I'm gonna tell you what I did, right? I had my mother, right? She was a very strong believer. So my mom would encourage me. And the young man to which he was my alibi witness, he was a pastor's son. He would kind of encourage me when I would call. But outside of that time, the enemy was always trying to tempt me to take my life. He was trying to tell me that you're never going to walk out of here. And it would be a picture in my mind. And he would always try to invoke that fear that I would never walk out of there. You got me? Because all of these stories, every time my lawyer came, he came with a bad report. And when he came with a report that seems as if there was some type of light, like, well, the victim really didn't say it was you. They said they had a hat like you. That right there, I said, okay, well, well, why don't you check this? I was watching TV at this time. Why don't you check this? See whether or not I'm accurate. It was just certain things that I was trying to, in my young mind, I was trying to give them information on.
Yeah.
But it seems as if that was just brushed away, like it wouldn't stand up to the law. And so, knowing this, right, when the victim pointed me out, I didn't realize, right, that they had already coached this person. The prosecutors had already coached them. I found that out later on, right, once, because the victim was the reason why I walked out of prison. It's a big story to that. But I just didn't understand why. I said, well, who's telling this young lady, who is telling her to say that about me? Because I know they can't think I'm the person that did that to them.
And you didn't even know this young lady at all?
I did not. I did not know her. I did not know her at all.
So, when she's pointing you out or whatever, however they went about saying is the man that did this in the courtroom or whatever. I'm just going by movies. I don't know how it works, but perhaps that's how they do it. Is he here? Yes, it's this guy right there, whatever. Were you just kind of confused, or did you kind of hate this person? Were you finding yourself, oh my gosh, now I want to do something to the, because this is like, you realize this person has your life in their hands. They're lying. And you had no animosity towards them or sense of revenge?
Not at all. I'll be honest with you, not at all. By that, like I said, by that time, God had really begun to work in me. And so when they did that, I was more so shocked. I was shocked because I did not think that I would remain behind bars that day. I thought the truth was going to come out. I thought it was just going to be like, hey, you know what? They made their mistake. This thing wouldn't be followed through with. They would say, look, that's not the person. Get Mr. Phillips out of there, send him on home to his family. I didn't realize that day, the whole trajectory would change.
Okay,
I didn't realize that.
First off, just to be honest with you, I'm surprised even in some of these answers, because like I said, I'm just trying to kind of walk people through the story, not just because it wasn't coherent enough, but I guess I'm trying to help people. Most people will never go through what you did, not just the false accusation, that's bad enough, but just going to prison. I don't think people really understand what psychologically that does to a human being. What do you really experience? Because people aren't designed to be put in a cage. Humans aren't supposed to live life that way. And so it has to have a deep psychological effect on a human being in many dimensions: fear, anxiety, depression, anger, futility, hopelessness, claustrophobia. I could see someone even bordering on losing their mind because it's just
I've
so
been there.
not a human trait. We're designed to go and live in the world that God created us and walk on grass with our feet, bare feet, and to eat food and to be with people that are kind and love us and so forth. Let's bypass that. You already said to us that you weren't even angry. You were kind of like just confused. You assumed, well, somehow the truth, because you believed in the truth. You believe that justice is sacrosanct and it will reveal itself. And God bless you for having that kind of, and maybe you need to. Maybe the only shot you have is to give yourself a positive hope. Otherwise, you're going to
Oh
just
yeah.
go nuts. But you get the conviction and you see this open door. I mean, I can't even imagine that, Darnell. You got. I'm sure you're handcuffed. Or maybe you weren't. I don't know. Or but you said you shut the door. Maybe it was in front of you. But nevertheless,
In front of me.
yeah. Okay. So, but you're looking out at the sun and the grass and the sky and this moment that just moments before was your territory to walk freely as a man wherever you want to go. And just because of someone's testimony, just because of a particular law, just because of a particular situation that happened to you, people that you do not know, that have no love or respect for you, are going to shut that door. They're going to put you into a place. They're going to lock a door. You will never get out without their permission. You won't eat without their permission. You won't do anything without people who might be cruel, evil, distant. Maybe there were some good folks there too. I hope so. They don't care about you. You're a product. You're a commodity. You're just something to get from here to there so they can finish their shift and go home. But you're a human being that has lost what we take for granted: freedom.
Mm.
And you shut that door and you said it. I can't imagine most people who've gone through this experience did it your way. I just can't, because it seems, frankly, it seems supernatural. Like something was happening to you internally that simply wasn't natural. It doesn't make sense psychologically. You should have tried to run through that door and just get away. Shoot me then. But I'm trying to get out of here. And instead something said, it's okay. We got an adventure we're about to go through, and I'll be with you, and this will make sense someday. But I cannot fathom it, brother. I can't, because it sounds so evil and dark. So I guess you said it. You said God was with me. Something he told me, but that you met other people in your many years in prison with these people, some who were evil and some were probably maybe in the same boat you were. Did other people have similar experiences like that?
No, I can't say, because you went back to something when you said it was supernatural. The reason why I can't, I'm gonna tell you, before and after. Before, when the situation happened, I wasn't saved. So of course, my mind, like I told you, I was on the brink of suicide. I'll be honest with you. Those 5 months I was in jail before I got out, before I got saved, I mean, extremely depressed,
Of
really
course.
depressed. And I was doing everything, holding on to the very edge, by the skin of my teeth, to hold my life, in the event that, look, you're going to walk out of jail, at least go home on bond. But once I accepted Christ, I would have been more happy maybe to go to go Bible study, at the Rock Church down the street from me. But that didn't happen. But something really supernaturally happened to me, and I gotta call it the peace of God, that passed all understanding. Because naturally, it really, when I think about it, it doesn't make sense. Because I was sent to the worst prison in Virginia at the time. The prison I went to, when I walked on the compound, I walked in there with a peace. I was 18 years old. There were young men there were getting robbed, because it was a very wild institution. Um, my first thing I saw was a person, when I'm walking on the compound, a person getting pummeled, running across the street, a homosexual and their lover. And so they were running across the compound. I'm like, what in the world am I into? But what God did was God directed me to people. I'm gonna be honest with you, he directed me to people who were, I guess, in the faith. They were guilty, but they were in the faith. When I went there, because I knew I could tell that God had something great in store for me, because the individual that he led me to was a pastor that had failed. He had fallen from grace, and I met him within 10 minutes of my being inside of prison. And what he did was, he said, you know what, man? He said, you remind me so much of myself. He said, you know what? Come down with me to the church. At that time, inmates ran the institution, right? It wasn't the staff, because things were so, I'm gonna put it to you like this. Things were so violent that staff just wanted to go home. So they didn't really interfere with the way you will see it sometime on TV now. They really didn't interfere with the inmates, except for calling them to stand up so they can count them. So this guy, inmate, he ran a lot of the institution programs. He took me like a son, and he tried to mentor me in ministry, and he tried to talk to me about how prison life was, what to stay away from. But when God is trying to do a work in you, it is hard not for it to be recognized on the outside, because if you're in an environment, because prison is a tumultuous environment, you got guys who have been, I'm gonna be honest with you, they come out of certain homes, a violent home. Some have been abused by parents. Some of them have, been abused by street life, and that's all they know. But when you see a light in an environment like that, people tend to gravitate towards it. And just so happened at that age, I was that light for that particular area. And the only thing I could do is I could share my faith. My case had already preceded me, because it was real well known on the news. God, I'm gonna tell you, when you're in a prison behind something like a rape, that is not an easy thing for you to go to. I don't care how big you are, and I'm a pretty big guy. I don't care how, it just doesn't matter. Guys will try to fight you, guys will try to steal from you, and guys will try to treat you like a second-class citizen. That didn't happen to me. God made it so in the minds of the inmates, the whole time they were like, man, you don't even seem like you need to be here, man. I believe when you said that you didn't do this crime. I never had to worry about a fight. I stayed 27 years behind a prison bars, doing the work of Christ, and I never had to worry about a fight. I never worried about a person coming accusing me. None of them things happened, because it didn't line up to my nature. Because when God told me, don't worry, you'll be okay, I didn't understand that those words that he spoke to me would kind of, I guess, like when Daniel was in the lion's den, how even though the lion was in there, the lion couldn't do anything to him. It was like God just shut the mouth of everything. It was weird, because I was seeing people in the same crimes and situations like mine. They may have been guilty of it, but I was seeing them guys get robbed. They couldn't even go commissary. They wouldn't be accepted. They could hardly use the phone. Some of them would get actually raped. That's just how bad that prison was in Virginia. But God kept me in that.
So when you first get in, and you have never been in prison, incarcerated,
Mhm.
whatever, and suddenly you're in a violent, like a high security, I guess. So the
Yes.
worst case scenario, like you said, how do you adapt and cope when you're first there? Because you literally are over your head. I don't know what I'm doing. I was just a regular guy living my life, and next thing I know, I'm in some crazy clown show that I don't even know what this looks like. I don't understand any of the rules. I don't know how, because I'm sure they create their own
Oh,
government
yeah.
and their own way of how things run and how they work. Like you said, your pastor friend maybe began to mentor you, like, just let me give you a lay of the land. So how do you go about adapting to prison life as someone who's never stepped foot in one? What's the first thing do you try to find people that will be your friend? Do they seek you out? How do you trust them? How do you know they're not there to manipulate you or to abuse you? So how do you even integrate into this crazy culture that you were not ready for?
God just kept sending people to me, and they weren't necessarily believers. I don't. It's like the favor on you. That's how I can only identify kind of like biblically, because it was weird. I told you, people who were in the same situation like me, they were not getting that treatment. I was getting guys coming to me say, "Look, man, I can get you a job over at the kitchen. Man, look, don't worry about anything going on in here, man. I'll be your big brother," and things of that nature. And it wasn't a lot of times when people draw to you in prison, you might have heard through TV shows, "Don't accept anything." That wasn't the case. You had guys who were just like, "Look, man, look, I want to look out for you, brother." And God was showing me so immense favor that I'm gonna be honest with you. Sometimes I forgot that I was in prison. I knew I was there, but I was like, I was overwhelmed. I was overwhelmed by with God's spirit, and God had begun to like teach me so much of His word as I studied. I just couldn't. I just had purpose on my mind while I was there. Brad, be honest with you.
Do people in prison, if you, and again, this is a world I only know from maybe television or whatever. So obviously, it's not like you did it. So that's why I'm asking this, because I'm just curious about it.
Oh, no,
But
you're
maybe
fine.
it's interesting to folks. So is there a status class system, so to speak, or a pecking order? For example, if you come in and basically let folks know, I'm a Christian, so I'm going to go to church and I'll be part of that group. And the other guy says, "Oh, well, I'm part of the Mexican gang group and I'm in the black gang and I'm the white supremacist group." I mean, that's what I've seen. I don't know if that's really how it works, but do you try to find a group so you feel like you have a sense of somebody, whether they're friends or protecting you, or do they internally give you your space? If, in other words, if you say, I'm a religious guy, I'm a Christian guy, I'm going to go to chapel, I'm going to do A, B, and C. Well, they say, "Okay, I'll give you that. You be that guy. I'll leave you alone, but don't be, don't be playing me. You better be that real guy.
Yeah.
Don't be using that as a way to get off
Yeah.
of, I'm just making it up, but is there kind of a formula as to how they will treat you based on who you act like you
Yes.
are?
Well, yes, because everything you mentioned about the gangs, you got Blood, you got Cribs, you have the MS-13, all of those things are there. You have white supremacists where you might have, they may all eat together. They may not even want to actually be honest with you, like they might still be racist. They might have like the skinheads, so they may not even eat out of the kitchen because they don't want to drink behind any other race, right? This is how it is. They'll pool their money together. MS-13, they'll hang together. They play soccer together. They'll, it's just a microcosm of society. Prison is, you have African American gangs, and a lot of times people tend to, just depending on your thinking, right? People tend to gravitate towards what they believe that's gonna help them navigate through that situation. Because, like I said, that is a very violent environment that I was in. I mean, like I said, people getting stabbed, people were dying. That's not something that you're not over exaggerating. That does happen. But for the most part, when I went into prison in the early 90s, you were more respected when you stood on your feet as a man by yourself. Even though I went to church, I still communicated with those in gangs and everything else, guys in other religions and everything else. Because in my mind, it came that, look, I felt like I was there for a mission. So sometimes you can hide behind the walls of the church, even in prison. I'll go to chapel and everything, but I felt like this. If God has me there on assignment, then I need to kind of network with the guys.
Yeah.
So one of the jobs I had there was a teacher's aide. I taught the 21 and under. My class had Bloods, gang. They had the Bloods, the Crips, the Hoovers, all of those type of gangs, Spanish gangs. And I would take them and we would go outside and work out. we would talk, and of course, things would happen between them. Things would happen. I'm not going to tell you they didn't happen, but I just firmly believe I had to put myself out there, not just go run behind the church brothers, because
Yeah.
people do a lot of time, even in the Muslim faith in prison, people are hide behind that. They're thinking about getting protection from that Muslim group, or even the Christian brothers. The Christian brothers that I met while I was incarcerated, they weren't kind of like the Christian men out here, because keep in mind, some of them may have been drug dealers on the street. Some of them may have been locked up for murder or whatever, but when Christ transformed them, they were some strong guys. They weren't passive men. They weren't like pushovers. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I hate referencing television or movies because that's
Hey, you're
drama
fine.
and so forth, but I have no other point of reference. So what you're telling me is, from my understanding, is that, there is kind of groups that segregate themselves. And so you don't like go eat and sit down with, I wouldn't go sit down with the Crips. White guy looks like, what do you, this isn't your area. How dare you even sit with us?
Mhm.
And so it sounds like what you're telling me is I took my mission serious. I'm
Yes.
here to be a missionary to non-believers. So you would approach folks that maybe theoretically was foreboding, this isn't how this works. There's a decorum here that you need to learn real quick. And you just would kind of say, hey, you can trust me. I really believe in Jesus. I want to present it to you. I'll be friends with anybody. I'm not here in a gang. I'm not here to stab any, whatever. And somehow they honored that. Now, is that because you're a big guy and they're thinking, oh man, I don't know. I'm not. I'm 5'6", white guy. So maybe I would be treated differently. They're like, well, he's not going to beat me up. So I'm not even thinking. Or would they honor my integrity? Like, he seems to be a guy that really believes this and he's really living that way. So I'm going to give him his space, because they realize we're all stuck in here. So maybe we need to be kind of nice to the nice guys, because they're not going to hurt anybody, and protect ourselves from the guys that are going to try to attack us and steal from it. I don't know if it's that simple, or maybe
No, it's a weird. It's like I said, because you have so many different diverse backgrounds. I met guys from everywhere in the world, from Iceland to Greenland to Cuba, from Russia. You meet guys from everywhere in the world, from all different classes. You met guys who were treacherous. I met guys who were serial killers. They got born again. And that's real. I mean, who were actual really serial killers got
yeah.
born again. Guys who were leading gangs, who were still leading gangs behind bars, but yet they wanted to escape that, because after a while they begin to, become mature. Some things, you put away the more mature you get. And so, me personally, I can only say it's because God gave me favor with them. Because I didn't have any issue with them. I really didn't have any issues with the guys. I don't even think it was behind my size or anything. Because I was like, at the time I was like 270. So and I used to work out all the time. I go around the field and box and do everything. It didn't even have anything to do with that. I just have to say that it was just God gave me favor in their eyes. And God had gave me a position. Everywhere I went, God gave me some type of leadership position. Like I said, he was training me in private to come out here to do a work. Like I said, I knew I didn't belong there, and I
Yeah.
knew I would be walking out of there. I did know that.
Okay. So
I
you
felt that strongly.
so you went through this entire process somehow in your heart, going, I don't know when, I don't know how, but God's getting me out of here. I mean, this wasn't just sort of you manufacturing that to survive.
Ah,
You just knew, this is real. This is my journey. This is my destiny. Right now, I have to do this for God's work, and then he's going to bring me out. And you were convinced.
yeah, I sure was. I was
And
I was
now
convinced.
wouldn't you have had parole meetings in the interim that you got denied?
Yes, I did. As a matter of fact, after my 7th year being there, I went in there in 1992, and in 1999 was my first parole hearing. And so I thought that once I go and tell them, because I had still been going to court, they would be like, okay, wow, Mr. Phillips, we made this bad mistake. But that wasn't the case. As a matter of fact, when I went there, in my heart, I felt like this man is not really listening to me. He's not really listening to me. And like he didn't care. It's like I was a number. My number was 192260. It was like, well, 192260, you may have to be here for a while. And I'm like, even though I hadn't gotten turned down yet, I just had that feeling.
Yeah.
And they have what they call deferrals. So deferrals can be like 1, 2 to 3 years. So instead of going up like that was 1999, going up in 2000, they said I would go up again in 2002, right? 2002. So I'm like, wow, they're going to actually make me wait to go up for parole in 2002. So those things, those were blows because my family was excited. They thought, okay, finally, my son, my brother, my cousin, he's about to come home. But that really wasn't the case. I just kept, sometimes I would get those deferrals back to back. It's because they're like, we didn't really believe, that's like, we're not believing you. We're not really hearing you. And so I ended up, on my 14th year, I ended up going to court. I started taking legal remedies, things such like what they call the writ of actual innocence, because by then I had got DNA testing done. The DNA testing excluded me, but yet the testimony of the officer, right, saying, well, Darnell told me, even though they didn't have any written confession or any recordings, my word stood against his. I was like, well, how are we going to get around this? Because DNA is already excluding me. Yeah. What we're going to do. So it just, I still kept fighting. And every time I went down there, to the courtroom, it was like the enemy was working hard on that side to try to keep me in there because they had kept finding other DNA that would exclude me. But by the time we started really digging further into the case or a court date would come, they would say that the DNA is destroyed. So it's like my hopes were being dashed, but yet, even though my hopes were being dashed, I still had a inner peace believing that, look, you're going to walk out of this prison. I'm telling you, that day is coming.
Well, let's kind of get to that space then, so that we can then move on to where what God has done with your life now that you are out. So let's get to that miraculous finish where you did in fact finally see that door open, and this time you get to walk out. What happened? What changed? Give us sort of the details of that and how that came about, so we can understand how this concluded.
I started seeing a big change in 2016. By that time, I had did 6 years in prison. By that time, I had developed stronger in my fellowship with the Lord, and I had developed to a degree that I was pastoring in the prison. Every place I went to, I was pastoring, preaching to the inmates, and just like a regular pastor would on the street, except for it was on the prison's grounds. And so in 2016, I received a letter from a young lady. This young lady, she had wrote a letter that God had gave her a vision. This is what she said now. I have the letter to this day. She said that God told me that the evidence that they said was destroyed is in a large white evidence bag. Now, you got to hold on to your seat with this. So the Innocence Project from UVA, they had started working on my case. The Innocence Project, God bless them, they put their time, resources, and energy just researching, trying to find out, okay, we don't believe this dude is guilty by a long shot. We got proof of his evidence, but how do we prove this? By that time, they had been told there's no DNA evidence. But this young lady sent a letter saying, God showed me there's a large white evidence bag. And so the Innocence Project, they went down to Virginia Beach Courthouse and they were looking for some paperwork because they told me, Darnell, we believe so much in your innocence. Whether or not we find any DNA, we're going to fight with everything we have. Do you know when they went down there, there was a clerk there, and the clerk in the court said, you're looking for paperwork, but we know we have a lot of other stuff for this guy. They said, a lot of other stuff for who? They said, Darnell Phillips. They said, like what? They said, well, we have this large bag. It was a large white evidence bag. This was 6 months after I received that letter. That showed me that God was working something. And when I heard that from my lawyers, right, on the phone, this is what I said. I said, I said, what's going on? My lawyer said, Darnell, we have some news for you. They said, we went down to the courthouse. I said, well, what did you find at the courthouse? I said, it was a large white evidence bag. They said, get out of here. I said, yeah. That let me know then that I wasn't just hearing voices. I wasn't hyping myself up, that God was real and that God, he speaks today. I'm telling you, they went tested that DNA. But here's the thing. The enemy is always trying to hinder any progress God's trying to give us. And so what that court did, the clerks of court, a lot of people took and mixed my DNA with the victim's DNA in the bag. And so that's called contamination. So what we did, we got in 2016, we got the courts, they tested the DNA on the clothing. They said they couldn't find anything. I said, well, the person also said in a letter that he's going to walk out of prison. I said, so I held on to that because I couldn't trust the court. I said I had to trust God. They tested about 3 times. Each time my lawyer said, Darnell, they're telling us that they can't find anything. I said, there has to be a lie because there's no way in the world that white evidence bag is going to show up and God not complete what he started. And do you know, I got called, we were on a lockdown, institutional lockdown. My lawyers called me upstairs on the phone in the counselor's office to speak. So, you know, on the phone call, they said, Darnell, we got a shot. We got 1 shot. But because they contaminated the DNA with the clothing of the victim, Darnell, this can really be bad for you. I said, well, no. I said, here's the thing. I said, I know God gonna want me out of there. They said, well, we're gonna go off your faith. They said that the man said he's never done this before except on 1 other case, and it was a cold case. And so what it was a method that they utilized it was like suction, right? To try to like separate DNA and things of that nature. So they did that method on the clothing, right? A lab in California. When it came back, got another phone call. Another phone call was my lawyer saying, Darnell, sit down. They said, we know this, but you need to hear this. What's that? They said they have the profile. It's not you. They said, like, we're surprised. So from that time forward, we started putting in paperwork to go to court and everything. And I went to court. And by that time I went to court, my lawyer they say, you know what, Darnell, depending upon how the evidence comes back out, they said, I got to try to find the victim because they need to know that they convicted the wrong person. So my lawyer flew to Atlanta, Georgia. But before my lawyer began to speak to the victim, check this out. The victim said, is this about Darnell Phillips? The same person that was in the court that pointed me out in the court said this question without any provocation. They said, is this about Darnell Phillips? And that person began to cry and said, I always mess up on God. And they said he has to hate me. And my lawyer said, actually, you'd be surprised how this man has turned out, you know? And so the beautiful thing is this person wrote an affidavit because they revealed that the prosecutors would not let them change their story in the courtroom. They also revealed that the same detective who said that I told them that had also talked to them that night of the crime. They also revealed that just that the person that did that crime, it was an older person. I was young at the time. See, so all of the lies that had been concocted that I was confused about the whole time, God revealed it at the end before I was released from prison. Now, how I got released, they did something else. They talked to Virginia Parole Board and they let them know, look, we got DNA, this man didn't do the crime. The victim wrote an affidavit letting them know that, look, this is not the man and you need to get him out of here. They talked to the victim did that and signed an affidavit. And so what they said, because normally when you wait for court to get you out, it takes a long time. So they released me on September 25th, 2018, after 27 years wrongfully in Virginia Department of Correction. The thing that God spoke to me in the court that, don't worry, you'll be okay. I walked out of that prison.
Postscript, I'm guessing there must have been a lawsuit or something towards your innocence and saying, look, there's got to be compensation. And I mean, based on, I don't know you, So based on your countenance, your personality, your maybe you said, I'm good, let's move on. But buddy, I cannot imagine you had 27 years of your life stolen from you. Now, I get it. You're a man of God. You're saying, no, it wasn't. That's what I was supposed to do for 27 years, and that's okay. But you have to understand how difficult it is for people to reconcile that. It feels so unfair. You can't retrieve that time in your life. But I get it. I get the right Christian words.
Mm-hmm.
But this was my call. This is what, in China, when those brothers and sisters are put in prison for their faith. In America, Christianity, we'd say this is unfair, this is unjust, there needs to be revenge or at least, compensation. And you know what they say? They say, we pray and thank God that he allowed us to participate in his suffering. They see their faith as an actual life that is crucified, that is dead, that is a slave to God. Whatever you want for this flesh of mine while I'm here, it's yours. Now, everybody that's a Christ follower would probably agree to that statement because it's biblical, but very few would want to actually live it, because the cost of being a Christian in Iran
Mm-hmm.
and Saudi Arabia, in North Korea and Pakistan, you don't just bow your head, close your eyes, raise your hands and say, okay, I'm in. Thank you, Jesus. Now I'm just going to live my life and hope I, have a few. When you say yes to Jesus, then in those countries, you're telling God, and that means I might be dead tomorrow. For real, not a metaphor. It's not a story. This is the cost. We've never had a cost in the United States to being a Christian. It's happening now. It's coming now.
Yes.
But you did. You had a cost, a requirement of your life's time. Now, we live forever, so in a way, it's kind of doesn't really count. But in the flesh, in this body that we're in, we do kind of gauge it by time. That's all we know. And you had 27 years that God asked of you in a very particular circumstance that most of us would not want to be part of. So, A, were you ever compensated for this breach of justice? And B, what have you done now that you've been out of prison to move forward with what your experiences have had been? What have you done now to continue to move forward in your life as a free man?
Well, I'm gonna answer A. Right before the pandemic happened, I went to Richmond, right? The lieutenant governor and the senators, they apologized to me on the state floor. But as far as them reversing and giving me a full exoneration to which he had promised, he did not. He did not give me my full exoneration and work on it as he promised.
This is the governor?
This is the lieutenant governor, right? He had said, Darnell, they all apologized. It was on TV, actually. They apologized, but then the pandemic came and it somehow got lost in the cracks. As a matter of fact, they had even, when you look it up, they had even got a law changed based on my situation, a writ of actual innocence law. Okay, I had spoke before the Senate floor, before the delegates. Everybody apologized, but they had not yet rectified those things. Even to today, this was 2019, and even when I spoke to them before our recent governor got into office, they still haven't rectified it. Now, provided that governor has said now, he told the head of the I guess the investigative board to go ahead on and start investigating Darnell's case, because somebody got to the governor and spoke to him directly. He told them, but yet they still have not yet moved. Now, I was told by someone, one of my friends, he's a producer, Jason Flom of the Wrongful Conviction podcast, that they are about to start doing it. So I trust him because, of course they're connected, but mostly they have not rectified this. So me personally, I still have to have a registration. They don't bother me, but I still have to register as a sex offender, so I can't get a regular job like everybody else, even though I was wrongfully convicted. I've been out here 5 years.
Yeah, that doesn't make
So,
sense, though. I mean, how do they
so
not? So what you need is a dismissal of charges?
I need a full I need my full exoneration from the governor, because, like I said, I know the pandemic when it happened, things could fall through the crack, but my thing is, like, my life's still been left on hold.
Yeah.
I can't go and do the things I want to do. I'm gracious to be home, right? I'm gracious to be home, and it's well known out here. People already see me, and it's well known. It's not something that people don't know. Some people already think, well, Donna, you've been compensated and they've done this or whatever, because you're walking around here, you're smiling and everything else. But that's only because God had showed me grace in areas. I had started my own business. First business was a mobile detailing business, and that had been nationally recognized. Then I started a trucking business. Now, the thing is about that, just up to 2 days ago, I'm going to tell you something. 2 days ago, it went from a budding business to just crashing down. It just crashed down. I'm like, Lord, what in the world is going on?
Yeah.
But I'm gonna tell you what, it happened when Duke White, as we talked about Duke White said, you know what, Darnell, look, we need your ministry up on this channel. So I started immediately. I said, you know what, Lord, you had already pretty much confirmed that I need to be more engaged in, yes, there's marketplace ministry, but I need to be more engaged in the teaching and preaching ministry like I was while I was incarcerated. So as soon as I started that, it's like everything was trying to distract my attention with the business. And so as that came crashing down, I said, you know what? Then I got a text from you. I said, that's something, Lord. So my thing is, now I'm like, you know what, Lord? If you bring this business back up, that's fine. If you don't, I still trust you, because you brought me out of worser than this. And so now I'm just we started out of a church in Norfolk, Virginia, right? So trying to build that ministry up. I got my doctorate degree. There's some things, right? A lot of things have been going on good, but at the same time, in this area of the marketplace business, and I'm still trying to just get my exoneration, because me personally, I qualify to get jobs 70, 80,000 a year or more, but you can't get it if you have a stigma on you.
Yeah.
Because they have to run background checks.
I got you.
So that's pretty much what's going on right now.
I had a minister from, I think it was Nigeria, that was at our church anyways, but they've suffered Islamic persecution as Christians there and other areas throughout the world. And I've always prayed for the persecuted church. For many years, I just felt like these poor people, they're just like me. They're just regular guys with families. They just believe in Jesus, and suddenly they have to worry about they're going to be killed or hung or their daughter's stolen. And so I couldn't wrap my mind around it. God, why are you intervening? These are your people. These are your children. Get in there and stop it. And yet this has been the history of the church, that there is martyrdom. The enemy hates us because we represent God's truth. Yes. And I talked to this guy and I said, look, why don't these Christians who are being attacked defend themselves? I mean, don't you have a right? I mean, the Bible gives us a right to defend ourselves, certainly. Don't they have, weapons? And I think in some areas, see, I'm in the United States, so I'm used to the Second Amendment. In some areas, like, we're not allowed to have weapons. I said, well, if they did, though, would you defend yourself? And he goes, I would ask the Holy Spirit to tell me what to do. And I said, but if you had a chance to defend yourself, I'm not talking about offense. I'm not talking about going to find people and killing them because they're your enemies. Right. That's not Christian. We're not allowed that option. Right. But you certainly are allowed. They're trying to harm your family, or you can defend yourself. That is not unbiblical. Wouldn't you at least do that? And he goes, I would ask the Holy Spirit what I should do. And I realized, Darnell, that a lot of the way I view my faith is through an American lens. As a Westerner, as an American, thus I have a First and Second Amendment right to defend myself. The founding fathers said that we find these truths to be self-evident. All men are created equal and endowed by their creator with certain inalienable rights. So our founders even said that our rights come from God, not from man. So if you are given a right of defense, that would be godly. So to me, it was just kind of cut and dried. Obviously, I'm not a pacifist, and you try to hurt my wife or my daughter, I'm gonna shoot you. I mean, that's that. Capital punishment is okay in biblical context. If you kill someone, murder someone, you forfeit your life. So that's how important life is to God. And yet, this man who really has endured these things, it's not a parable to him. Didn't just say, well, of course I'd defend myself. I just can't. Or, well, they just outnumber us. He didn't say what I think would be the obvious thing. He said, I would wait for God to tell me what to do. Once you're exonerated, which clearly is what the law and what justice must entail. And God wouldn't have gotten you this far and then got you out of that prison and not think, but you're still going to have this stigma. I don't think that's going to be the case. Of course, I don't know God, but that doesn't make sense to me. So we're going to pray for you. All of the people watching this or listening to this podcast certainly will lift you up. Perhaps there's people in Virginia that can help you with a job. Who knows what God has in store for us? But let's say that you're exonerated, because without that, I guess there would be no way to pursue compensation, because they're like, well, wait a minute, you still have this, you are not innocent. I can't give you something that you're not until it's officially off the record. You're not innocent. But once that happens, let's believe it will. Do you feel that God would ask you to say, okay, now I'm going to compensate you financially for this? It won't give you your 27 years back, but it will certainly help you moving forward to give you back what you lost that you would have earned. Maybe you would have been a famous rapper. I don't know. We'll never know.
I got you.
Do you feel as though God, that would be fair to pursue that? Or are you still almost wondering, well, I don't know, maybe God won't want me to go that direction?
Nah, like I say, I'm pretty, like I say, settled with doing the work of the ministry, could be, like I said, because that's all I've done my whole life, even while incarcerated, right? Even like I say, since I've been home, I didn't done that. Like I say, even with my business, I was doing well with that, contracting with brokers and everything, but I would just still just grow the work of the ministry, except for I could expand more. You got me? I could really expand like I really want to.
Yeah.
Right now I can't expand like I want to, because even though I have my rights and everything, but when you're on a registration, you can't minister to the population that you would. Like there is a plethora of young men that I could really minister to. But the matter of fact, they've invited me to places, teachers and everything, that I could talk to about the prison, school to prison pipeline and all. But my thing is, I can't do that because I have that restriction.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what. I'm going to ask you one more question here just for a moment that will go out to my subscribers. That will be just for them. But I believe that God is real. I believe he revealed himself in Jesus Christ, unlike any other claimer for being a prophet or God in human history. And you're an inspiration. You didn't choose this life. None of us do, really. None of us choose to get killed by a car crash at 18. None of us choose to get cancer at 23. None of us choose to get sent to prison for something we didn't do. But if we're believers, we have to reconcile the fact that, God, this is your life, and I said that it's yours. I have to accept whatever that means. That's what it meant. And I was serious. I was an honorable man. My words mean something. I've given you my life as you choose, and I will do the best I can to represent you under whatever circumstance you bring my way. In the meantime, I believe that God is a God of justice, honor, integrity, truth, and your story is just fascinating. You have a much more amazing character trait of peace and kindness than I think I certainly do. And maybe that's why he chose you. It's like, this guy can handle this, and Stine couldn't. I don't know, but I know this. God is real. And Father, in the name of Jesus Christ, I believe that Darnell Phillips is going to be completely exonerated of this false charge, because you are the God of all things. Lies are Satan's domain. You are God of truth. The truth is he is innocent. You will strip away this false charge above him. You will compensate him completely and utterly, exactly how he deserves to be, by your grace and your mercy alone. And I pray this not only because, as a brother in Christ, I owe him my allegiance, because we are in this together as believers in our life, but I want this to go on record, that what I'm praying right now, one day we'll see this exoneration. We'll revisit and say, there it was. This was a prophecy that it would come to play. This was his belief. He's never wavered. And here is the result. And I can't wait to show the people this prayer and the conclusion of exoneration in the future, in your time. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
All right, Darnell, I'm going to ask you one more question. So there's going to be a
Yes,
lot of
sir.
folks watching this right now. Many are believers, most are. Some aren't. I have had atheists watched. I've had people from all around the world. People aren't Christians. And they're facing an unjust scenario in their life, or they've gone through things that happen to them that they can't fix, and they don't feel like they're ever getting any compensation or justice or healing. And people try to give them a scripture, and they're like, I don't need your scripture. I don't want your trite, oh, God's got a better plan. I'm going through pain. This sucks. This ain't right. If this is what God's all about, I'm not interested. And you have the privilege and the right, because of what you went through, to speak to them right now and say, let me tell you how you need to approach this moving forward. If you could give them hope and your word from God right now in their situation to come out the other side whole, what would you say?
You know, to whoever's listening or watching, I would tell you that.
Hey guys, I'm interrupting my own interview. If you want the answer that you haven't heard yet, go to bradstine.com and join one of the 3 tiers. It is the militia of the mind, it is the warrior level, or it is the special forces. And then you'll get all kinds of special content and bonus answers to make you smarter than you could ever imagine. Go there now, jump on and join the Mighty 10,000. Well, thank you so much for that. I wouldn't be as, I don't want to be as, seem frivolous or trite in comparing maybe pains and sufferings I've gone through with yours. Obviously, whatever anyone goes through feels the worst. You know, it's our personal existential experience. But obviously, what happened to you is an anomaly. It's not a typical situation for most human beings. I just want you to know that to speak to you as a fellow believer and see you as a brother in Christ. I just met you. I may never see you again. I hope we do, but if not, it's irrelevant. I will see you on the other side. That's how this works. But you're an inspiration to us because you didn't talk about it. You didn't write a little devotional about what ifs or use some biblical story of Job and how he went through it. Can't we all learn from that? You said, I was really in real hardcore, violent penitentiary. Didn't belong there. I didn't deserve it. And that's that. And here's what I learned. You know, I've said this before, Darnell. I think when God says, when Christ says, you know, you're crucified with Christ, nevertheless I live, yet not I, but Christ lives in me, in the life which I live in the flesh. I live by the faith of God who loved me and gave himself for me. 2 Corinthians 5:17. I think he was serious. Jesus Christ died on the cross one time. He took all the sin of the earth, and it was unjust. It was unfair. He didn't deserve it. He hadn't, not only did he not deserve to be put to death, why is he being punished for sin he didn't even commit? But he did, and he took it. And he said, it's okay, because I know this. In 3 days, I'm going to be resurrected. I will
Yes.
have defeated death. I will have provided a way for my children to spend eternity with me because they couldn't have got here without me. And I love them that much.
Mm.
I'm going to do this for them. So this crucifixion is painful, as difficult, as unfair, as unjust as it is. I will be honored to accept because God is trusting me with this pain. He knows I'll be resurrected, and he knows that trillions will be resurrected because of what I'm going through.
Yes.
And that is what every Christian is asked to do. Your 27 years of absolute injustice was a crucifixion.
Mhm.
And 5 years ago, when you came off your cross and were resurrected, you
Mhm.
now are healing more than any of the enemy who tried to destroy you could ever have imagined. Wait till you get a load of what God's going to do with the pain he trusted you with. I'm grateful it was given to you and not me, because you seem to be a lot stronger than me, but you are an inspiration. I'm grateful that men like you exist to help all of us believers, men and women, to see there is hope in what seems like hopelessness, and that God can in fact keep us in peace even when it
Yes,
seems
he can.
impossible. You're an
Yes, he can.
inspiration, brother, and I'm grateful that you exist, and I hope we get to know each other more in the future, folks.
Yes, definitely.
Remember, truth is all you have as a Christ follower. It is the
Yes.
essential foundation of everything. Speak truth, never apologize for the truth, never apologize for your faith. If somebody ever says you're being politically incorrect, always say, thank you for the compliment. I'm not here to be correct to politics or to an ideology of evil. I'm here to be correct about who Jesus was and what that
Yes.
means. Folks, that's all we got. We are the last truth tellers on earth. And if you haven't noticed, the world has
Yes.
gone nuts. Demons have been unleashed, and we are the warriors that will not allow the gates of hell to prevail. Folks, I
Amen.
am God's comic. Brad Stine, this is Darnell Phillips. Look him up, figure out his ministry, go and attend his church, help him out in any way that God might lead you to. And until we see each other on the other side, remember, I am simply doing what I'm called to do, and that is putting the
Amen.
woke back to sleep. God
Amen.
bless you. See ya next
God
week.
bless my brother.